to the Western Region Drug and Alcohol Task Force Parent Hub webinar series. Our presentation is on talking to your teen about alcohol and other drugs. It's one of a series of presentations that will be happening over the coming months, once a month, Wednesday webinars and Wednesday evenings, supporting parents and guardians around substance use relative topics and conversing with their child or teenager. We also want to use this opportunity to introduce you to our Parent Hub, our new resource that sits on our website wrdatf.ie and connects you with information and services in the Western region, and we'll be coming on to that in just a few minutes. So in relation to our topic today, talking with your teenager about substance use, we want to really reiterate how important you are to your child. It may not always seem like it, but what you say is really important. It really does go in, and it helps to build their belief system and their moral compass for navigating life. So really important that you're aware of the importance of your role as a parent or guardian, and that you come back to making opportunities to have conversations around substance use at an appropriate age and an appropriate stage throughout teenage years. One thing I'd like to bring to your attention is our Planet Youth survey. So Planet Youth is the Icelandic model of primary prevention that we have been piloting in the west, or running in the west of Ireland, counties Galway, Mayo and Roscommon, over the past 7 years. And it provides some really rich regional data on over 5,000 15 and 16-year-olds in our region. That's extremely valuable to our work and really informative and helpful. And you'll see there the last survey was conducted in November last year in 2024, so it's quite current information on just over 5,000 young people participating in sharing details about growing up in the Western region of Ireland and what life and well-being is like for them. One issue that I wanted to bring attention to was the prevalence of alcohol use, and you can see in terms of lifetime prevalence we're over 70% self-reporting from young people. And the reason I'd like to bring your attention to this topic now is because of the connection with this, the cross-contabulation and correlation with parental attitudes or perceived parental attitudes around substance use. So on this slide we have cannabis, we have alcohol there as well, but when young people were asked to comment on the viewpoint of their parent being completely against, or somewhat against it if they got drunk or if they used alcohol, this is what they reported. So when we looked at the data, we could see a connection between just over half of young people perceiving that their parent wouldn't like it if they used alcohol or got drunk, and the relative data with our 73% of people who'd used alcohol in their lifestyle. So what we know is that it really is important, the attitudes as parents and guardians that we project to our young people. It's so important that they clearly what we think and view around substance use, and that we're really mindful of those opinions that we are communicating, because they really do have an impact. So what we know is when parents' tolerance, or the perceived tolerance around alcohol use in particular, we know when that's present that there is a direct connection with the alcohol behaviour then of the young person. So it's a kind of a green light in terms of going ahead and drinking. So that really does have an impact, and we can very clearly see that evidence been demonstrated in the Planet Youth data from 2024. So for more information on Planet Youth, visit planetyouth.ie and go to the Western region section of that website, and you'll see the data for counties Roscommon, Mayo and Galway relevant to us and relevant to this conversation we're having today. So when we look at the data from this year, it really brings attention to the importance of parental attitudes and importance of having the conversation. So really important that we're having conversations early and often, that we're using an opportunity to destigmatize the topic, or to take the taboo away from the alcohol or drug conversation, and that this is a conversation that we can approach and that young people can approach us around if they have concerns, if they have questions, at any stage, at different stages throughout their adolescence, and not just a once-off talk that's awkward, or cringy, that we are coming back to that and opening the channel for that communication to happen between parent and child. These conversations, there's nothing new really in this. They're building on your existing parenting skills. And we really want you to realize that, I suppose, the importance of what you say and do. We know that as we move through teenage years, that young people are more likely to experiment and take risks. It's essential to start having a conversation to help them prepare for those risks in life and to navigate situations that will occur for them around substance use. We know with substance use, it's predominantly through their peers or friendship groups or existing groups of people that they'll already know, as opposed to particularly strangers or anything like that. So it's about how to navigate that when it is your best friend who's offering you the drink, or it is the person that you fancy that's offering you some weed, or it's the cool kids or the group that you want to get connected with. It can be really more challenging then to be resilient in those kind of scenarios, whilst we might know our viewpoint in the cold light of day. When it actually comes to being put on the spot in a particular challenging scenario like that, we really need to be prepared. So we're encouraging parents to build those kind of topics into their conversation to help their child feel equipped and tooled to be able to manage substance use conversation, a scenario that might occur. So we know that early intervention leads to better outcomes. Early intervention is proven to be really effective. We know that these conversations are going to help build relationships with us. They're going to give us an opportunity to define the boundaries and our expectations. They're going to help young people feel more secure, really, because they're aware of the parental situation on it. They're aware of the boundaries and potential consequences, and they're also aware that you can approach the topic. So it's building on communication and rapport overall, in terms of having, approaching kind of scenarios or conversations that might be taboo or somewhat difficult. The overall aim of this, of course, and of all of our work, is to delay or avoid the onset of substance use. We know that our brain, particularly our frontal lobe, is in a significant stage of growth and development throughout teenage years, particularly from the ages of 11 right up to about 18. But we know that our brain continues to grow and develop into adulthood right up to 25 plus years of age, somewhat 27 up to about 27 years of age. The brain is still growing and developing, as are our organs. So really important that we can keep an environment that's substance free, internally and externally in the body, and a healthy environment in general, in order to aid healthy growth and development into adulthood. So we're conscious of that, and for that reason, delaying the onset or avoiding substance use altogether in adolescence is the best option, and what we are encouraging parents and guardians to do at this time. We know that young people want information, and they're curious by nature. There's change happening at a rapid rate in adolescence, and they want this information. So if they don't get this information from you or from home, they're going to get it from other sources. They will also get additional information from other sources, but we'd hope and we would expect that the fundamentals come from home, and that the accurate factual information comes from home. And I suppose when we are opening the opportunity to have these conversations, we really are, hoping that we're going to avoid misinformation from other sources. We know that the conversations are going to help prepare and protect our child, help them develop healthier attitudes and opinions around them, and again, help them to develop that moral compass that is absolutely fundamentally important for them to be able to navigate substances in their exposure and in their life. Conversation gives us an opportunity to communicate our expectations. Parental attitudes are really, really important, and what we project really is important and really goes in. So we would like to spend a bit of time thinking about how we have those conversations and what we need to do to get the ball rolling around having the conversation. It is something we could possibly jump into. However, we would recommend, and it's always better to be prepared. So we are encouraging you to plan your conversation in advance. So the conversation you have with an 11-year-old is going to be quite different to the conversation content you'd have with maybe a 14 or 15-year-old, and then again with a 17-year-old. So we're asking you to revisit this and to be kind of age appropriate around it, to be mindful of that, and also to be mindful about other little ears or siblings in the room or in the space or in the home having a conversation with you. So we would encourage you to keep it to a one-to-one, to take an opportunity or make the opportunity to have this drug or alcohol conversation with your child, a supportive conversation where they feel open to asking questions. We're asking you to include a partner for support if possible, where possible, to have a sense of what you want to say. Again, go back to age appropriacy and experience appropriacy, taking in mind what the young person's experience of or exposure to substance use is like, whether there's maybe substances used at family gatherings or whether maybe at celebratory events they've seen adults in their life use substances, and perhaps that might be a natural opportunity to reference as we go into our conversation with our young person. We would also really encourage the use of media prompts when is topical, when there are topical scenarios coming up or news reports coming up around substance use. That kind of objectifies the issue. So it's a bit less direct. It's a little bit, more neutral. And we're bringing that conversation about substance use into the space between us and our child as an opportunity to converse and to develop the conversation further, as opposed to a sit down serious eyeballing one-to-one, let's sit down and talk about this. So it's up to you and your parental prerogative to kind of work out when is the best time, but we would encourage you to consider that. Think about, is it at the dinner table? Is it last thing at night before we go to bed when the house is quiet and we get a chance one-on-one to have a chat? Is it when we're out driving in the car on a lift to, to sports, or on a lift to swimming, or on a lift to school? When can you get an opportunity, when you have time, when you have space with your child, on an individual basis, to approach this topic and have the conversation? And another factor around why we need to keep it private on a kind of a one-to-one is because there may be concerns that your child already has that you're not aware of. There may have been experiences that they've already had around this topic that we're unaware of, and we want to give the space and opportunity to allow that to come up if that needs to surface. So really important that kind of little younger siblings aren't listening in or part of that conversation. And there might be some elements of this topic in this conversation that is suitable and appropriate for the whole family, in terms of the ethos of the family, or our belief system around substance use might be kind of appropriate to include everyone in, and some elements will be. But when it comes to kind of the one-to-one conversation with your teen, we're really asking for you to keep it private and build it into our natural day-to-day life. If we walk the dogs in the evenings together, maybe there's an opportunity. If we're out doing a bit of gardening at the weekend, maybe there's an opportunity. If we're baking at the weekend or making a meal together, there's an opportunity there in the kitchen to have this conversation. So it's not to make it a kind of awkward or stand out as kind of very different, but to try and really pace ourselves and phase ourselves around how we create the opportunity for this conversation to have. And an important element to mention is that it's not a once-off conversation, that we come back to this substance use chat, at relevant times and at different stages throughout adolescence, that it becomes part of a regular conversation or a regular check-in around it, so we can offer opportunity for our young person to confide, to disclose, to ask questions, to get information and facts in a safe way that we're guiding and protecting. So we also need to be prepared for questions, because questioning is also obviously a really important part of it. Teenagers are curious by nature and they're going to probably want information there. We're asking you to have some facts on the topics you want to bring up, whether it's alcohol or other substances, not to be an expert, of course, in the area, but to have a relative amount of information and facts there at hand, to provide information in the conversation. For example, it might be something like alcohol being a depressant substance, a depressant sedative drug, that we have, relevant information in relation to the substance. So when we have our talk, when we're in the conversation, we're going to be really conscious of our approach. We're going to be open to discussion, hold back on the judgments, hold back on the stigma. We are going to try and destigmatize this topic so that there's more of an open approach. We are going to try to be sensitive and to really listen, and to open the conversation up, as opposed to it being a lecture or a warning or a here's the rules in our house about this substance. And certainly the rules, the expectations, the attitudes, the consequences will come in as part of this conversation. But we really want it to be a supportive conversation where we're offering the opportunity to our child to discuss substances, to ask relevant questions, to have concerns aired out during our talk. So been really mindful of that. Letting your child know that you're setting the boundaries because you care. It's important that they feel safe, and it's important that they know they can come to you around this topic, and then working together to set boundaries or rules for the house or for themselves around substance use. Important as well that we keep the conversation upbeat and clear, and that it's a positive experience as opposed to anything that's perceived to be threatening or warning or uncomfortable. We want really to set the wheels in motion where a child feels able to come back to us around this conversation and to open up the topic at any given stage in the future, so that it's not a once-off, it's a regular conversation that's supportive and helpful. Really important that we can remember we were a teenager one time too, and it can be a bit awkward, and we want to be supportive and show empathy within that. We also want to, as I said, take advantage of teachable moments or prompts. So when there is an opportunity to have the conversation, and also when the topic of substance use emerges, there's a nice natural emergence really of that to work from. There's power in preparation, I suppose, for both. For parents and for young people, really important that you get a chance to prepare for this conversation too, that you're not taken by surprise, or that you feel somewhat ready and steady in the conversation, but also that your child is using the conversations as an opportunity to prepare them for any substance challenges that they might encounter in terms of scenarios going forward in their life, but also and to prepare, I suppose, their responses and to get your support with that. How would you manage in a difficult situation if you were offered drugs or alcohol that you didn't want to take? How would you get out of that situation? What are some of the ideas? What are some of the things you can build in to try and manage the situation? Do we fake a phone call, pretend we've text? Do we text home and say, collect me, please, I don't feel comfortable, and you organise an earlier lift? Is it that we, stick to our guns and just say, look, it's not for me, but thank you, and being realistic when it comes to kind of situations where we want to be accepted by our peers and we want to be the same as our peers, it can be a lot more challenging. So that we're really offering the opportunity to open up those kind of conversations and those topical elements in our substance use conversation. Coming back to, like, this is building on existing parenting skills. You're consciously bringing up the subject, you're using prompts, you're really helping them to prepare for socializing and for friendships going forward through teenage years. We're asking you to talk regularly and often. That many conversations are better than one long, boring lecture. We really want to, be mindful of the fact that the content of the conversation is going to change with natural development through the years, and that we can revisit it at an appropriate level. Make sure that we leave the conversation open towards the end, that our teen knows that they can come back to us with questions or for advice, or we'll chat about it again. That it's not an awkward one, that we can come back, we can bring up the topic. Do you remember that little chat we had a couple of months ago about alcohol? I was wondering, has anything changed for you about your viewpoint? Has anything changed about your thoughts or feelings around alcohol? Has anything come up for you since? It might be preparatory if there's a end of year ball coming up, or a party season, or it's Halloween, or it's the summer holidays, and there might be opportunity to socialize for your young person. It's kind of around being prepared for that and looking at having this conversation, preempting maybe tricky situations that might come up. We know developmentally things change quite quickly, so really important that we're revisiting this topic on a regular basis. Offering the opportunity for concerns to be aired, and really important, I suppose, to come back to you being, the most important role model for your child. Parents play a key role in helping teens delay or avoid use, and that's really what we are encouraging. And with that in mind, we're asking you to be conscious of your own habits and attitudes towards drugs and alcohol and the storage of alcohol and medication in your home. So that role modeling element is really, really important, and really important that we're clear around that as well, and that we have boundaries in relation to that. So to recap, it's really important that we're talking to our teens about substance use. That's the moral of the story today. That we plan, we talk, we follow up, that we're supportive, and that we're very aware of our own influence. Um, So other ways to support your teen are to maintain routine and structure at home, to notice and act on behavioural changes, particularly when we come to kind of helping people who are having issues around substance misuse. We generally find it's that behaviour has changed, or somebody at home has become suspicious, or they've started isolating, or perhaps they've been more secretive, or perhaps their friend circle has changed. Or we're noticing unusual smells or odors from their room, or paraphernalia hanging around their room or their space. Being mindful of all of that, and please do. We are encouraging you to notice and to act on any changes of concern that you feel you might have around your child. We're asking you to do what you can to help them enjoy school, that it's a positive school experience. We know that Irish parents are really good at showing up for their young people, and our Planetute data really demonstrates that as well. We're encouraging you to get them involved in sports and hobbies and interests that match them. So look at what they're really interested in, what they'd like to explore. It could be drama, it could be dancing, it could be horse riding, it could be soccer, it could be swimming. We're trying to match up with their personal interests and try and get them involved in extracurricular hobbies and interests as an outlet. Really important that we know where our teenager is. Under 18, your child is a minor, and you have a duty of care and a parental role to protect them and to supervise them right up to that age, and to know where they are at all times. So please do take an interest in their friends and their social group and their activities that are going on, and also staying connected with other parents and other families around this topic. So within the Western Region Drug and Alcohol Task Force, we have a suite of resources for you to help support you have this conversation with your child, and these conversations regularly. We have the preteen years resource, we have Teen Talk, and we have Teenage Years, a guide to protecting your teenager on a night out. These are all available on PDF, and they're to view and download on our website, wrdatf.ie. As a closing message, we'd like to say that parents have a really significant influence on their children's decision to experiment with substances. We're really mindful that you are a very, very important role model. You're one of the most influential factors in your child's life, and maintaining strong, open relationship with you is absolutely fundamental and extremely important. And we know that when parents create supportive, nurturing environments, children then make better decisions. And ultimately, that's what it's about. So we'd like to direct you now to our Parent Hub, which is our new parent support resource sitting over on our website. The Western Region Drug and Alcohol Task Force. This is what the home page looks like as you click in. And the aim of the Parent Hub is to connect you to information and services in the West of Ireland. The Parent Hub is designed under 3 age categories. They're preteens, parents of or guardians of preteens, and parents of teenagers, and then parents of over 18. So adult children that might still be living in your home, certainly still maybe under your care, certainly we're still caring for and still love, and that we're mindful of whilst they're over 18, and categorization in terms of health care delivery changes, that they're still your child, and it's still really important that you can access the information in relation to substance use for adult children. Further to this, the Parent Hub is broken down under the sections of prevention, early intervention, support and treatment. So for most, it'll be prevention, parents who are interested in information around topics relating to substance use and who want to be informed, perhaps for planning a conversation, for example. Also then with early intervention, we are looking at where your child has started to use substances, but you'd like advice on how to deal with the issue as it's arising. And there's a lot that parents can do in terms of early intervention if they're resourced, particularly having conversation is very, very important. But there's a lot of supports and information that we can refer you to there in the early intervention section, where you can upskill or tool yourself to be able to address this to your best of your ability. And then we have the support and treatment area, where when your child is using substances and experiencing alcohol or drug related issues, and you feel like they might need further support, more support or professional consultation around that, this is the designated area for that information. We have the Tackle module on our Parent Hub, which is a really helpful informative e-learning piece for parents around having this conversation. Again, looking at choosing your timing, being considerate of your approach, being confident, having the knowledge there, the information, facts ready to go, listening, and then empowering your child to make a good decision. So it goes into what we're talking about on this presentation, but in quite a bit more detail. We also have a parenting module there that again has got a lot of information in there as well and can be really helpful too. So there's quite a lot of content on Parenting Hub in terms of e-learning modules and videos for your reference, and we would really encourage you to pop over there for a visit and to spend a little bit of time getting familiar with that. So in relation to further supports for parents, we have the family support section on our website that links you in with services in the Western region. We have got a designated family support worker in counties Roscommon, Mayo and Galway. It's a self-referral free confidential service for you to get support if you're concerned about a loved one's substance use. It can be a family member, it can be a friend, it can be a partner or a relative. When we're having concerns, it's support for you. So Maria Pars is our family support coordinator there, who can also direct you around this and around drug related intimidation and other concerning issues pertaining to families. So please do spend some time on the website scrolling that area of family support to access that information. We also have the details of the HSE Drug Service West counsellors and addiction counsellors and support workers for your reference too, and that you'll find that on the top bar of the homepage of our Drugs Task Force website. Include the key messages to take away from this presentation is that experimentation is a really natural part of being a teenager. It's really important as parents and guardians, as positive and significant role models in our child's life, that we are taking the opportunity to have conversations around substance use. Our attitudes around substance use are vitally important, and very important that we can be clear in relation to that, and that it's never too late to build protective factors. And having the conversation by nature naturally becomes a protective factor for our young person around substance use. There's family support. There's support for family members impacted by substance use, even if the young person isn't wanting to engage in support themselves. And there are things that parents and carers can do to have a positive impact on young people's choices. And the best way to stay informed and updated around our services, around our events and our parenting webinar series is by following us on our social media platforms. So West RDATF is our Instagram handle. Western Region Drug and Alcohol Task Force is our Facebook link. We have the WRDATF video channel. We have our website. We've planetyouth.ie, and we have Western RDATF over on X or Twitter. So really important, I suppose, that you can link in on the social media platforms just to stay current and to get the information on all upcoming events. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to view this presentation today, and please do feel free to get in touch with any of our funded workers or staff on wrdatf.ie if there's any follow-up that you should require.